Hello guys and welcome to another video. My name's Mark, I'm a property investor and entrepreneur, and in today's video we're going to be talking about the 5 levels of wealth. Now you might be asking yourself, why am I stood here in the entrance to my garage when I've got a perfectly good house and studio? Well, yesterday my baby daughter was born. I haven't got time to go to the studio because I've got to go in and help my wife, and I still wanted to make sure I got this video out to you today. So this was the only suitable place I could do it because it's actually not very good weather outside. It's starting to rain a little bit. So the only place I actually could do this right now was the entrance to my garage. So hopefully you'll forgive me a little bit for the quality of this, but what I want to do is make sure I get the content to you and the content right. I've been paying a bit of thought process to this, so I'm going to give you all of this as we go through. Now, as you know, I don't sell any course on this channel. We don't do any upsells, so if you could give this video a big like, it massively helps me out the algorithm. And why not consider subscribing? I'm not going to be selling you anything, and I'm going to give you as much unbiased information as I possibly can, as I've worked my way all the way through these levels, and actually more recently come back one, and I'll go into that in a bit more detail towards the end of the video. So level 1 on this is broke. Now I don't want to be disrespectful, most people will start here obviously. It's when your income is less than your expenses and your assets are less than your liabilities. And if we do a bit of business talk, this really is profit and loss and balance sheet. So you don't need to understand those terminologies, but really what we're looking at is your income's less than your expenses and your assets are less than your liabilities. Now how do you move from broke to what I call balancing the books? Well, really, it's about just formulating and understanding where you currently are. And what you'll find with me when I go through these stages, income is incredibly important. So maybe you're broke and you're literally working a full-time job, your expenses are more than your income. You might need to either look at ways to increase your income or cut your expenses. Those are the 2 ways that really you can do that. And there are multiple ways that you can increase your income. You could get a different job, you could look for a raise, you could also do more hours, you could also take on a part-time job on the side. As you know, I run a taxi company. We've got lots of people who just work Friday and Saturday night and earn between 200 and 400 quid a week extra money. That's nearly £1,000 a month. That's going to really help out on this, I can imagine, for a lot of people. So to move from broke to balancing the books isn't that difficult, and how I define balancing the books is your income is equal to or greater than your expenses, and your assets start to become equal to or less than your liabilities. Now there are a few things to watch out for on both of these stages, things like credit cards, and you'll hear people say you need a credit score, you need to get a credit card to start building that up. Now believe me, nobody gets a credit card with the intention of building up big credit card debts, but it always seems to happen. So I would always resist that. That is what I consider bad debt. Now balancing the books, this is where most people live most of their lives, and once you start to go further down this is how you get the mindset shift that really leads to becoming wealthy. And if you're watching this channel, you're probably already there in terms of mindset. You might just need a little bit of help or a little bit of a push to go, actually this stuff does work, I just need to commit and I need to enter level 3, which is the grind. At this point you get a plan and you articulate that plan, you have a budget, you understand what you're going to be spending every single month, and you're going to start working that plan consistently, and consistency really is the key. Again, your income is definitely going to be greater than your expenses at this point. Now if you're in the UK, I always think about £1,000 a month is what you need to be investing in order to grow your wealth to the level that most people dream of. Assets are going to start becoming more than liabilities, but this is the point at which you need to get excited, and that's why I've written be excited over here. For me, the grind is the most exciting part, when somebody has taken that decision, made that commitment that they're no longer broke, they're no longer just going to be balancing the books, but they're going to commit to the grind. And again, that could be a second job, it could be a side hustle, it could be more hours, it could be whatever it takes to make sure that you've got this big spread between income and expenses so that you can start to invest that money and move to level 4, which I call the investor. Now the investor is actually an investor. They're not a gambler, they're not looking at crypto, they're not looking at matched betting, they're not thinking around the problem. They're taking a specific plan that they know is tried and trusted, and there's probably only 2 asset classes in this. That's only property and shares. Now for me, shares fall into index funds because, as you know, I like very low cost, very low risk and good returns. Market returns are absolutely fine for me. So for me it's index funds. But at this point we start to build up what you would consider passive income. And it doesn't matter what form that's in, whether that's in capital appreciation, whether that's in dividends, whether that's in rent roll. It doesn't really matter how that passive income starts to come in. The reality is it just starts to build up and the snowball is going to start. Now, let's start talking about timescales, how long it can take to get from one level to another. So if you're absolutely broke, let's say for example you've got, I don't know, a few £1,000s worth of debt, because people don't really go broke with hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of debt. It's very hard to get into that position. No one's going to lend you £100,000. So the reality is the broke person's got a few £1,000s worth of debt. Their income maybe has a little bit of a spread. Maybe they're £200 in a negative every month. Their assets, they're not great, and their liabilities aren't massive either. So to move from broke to balancing the books isn't normally a big step with the people I've spoken to. It's normally a case of, well, just take on a second job, or just do a few extra hours or whatever, and suddenly you're balancing the books. So I think that broke to balancing the books should be as quick as a couple of months, maybe 3-6 months, something like that. Balancing the books to the grind, now that is just a mindset shift. That's committing to gaining access to more. So for me, that's an instant, that's a moment in time where you say, actually, I'm no longer going to be balancing the books, I'm committing to the grind in whatever form that might be for you. Maybe you're building a business and that's the grind. Maybe you're taking on a second job to create this spread and that's the grind. There's many types of the grind, but for me, that's a mindset shift. That's purely mindset, and that's an instant, that's a moment. The next one is the investor. Now this is when you're starting to take all that money that you've got from your income, and all of this is income driven, right? All of it. At this point, you start taking the income, and you invest it into those assets that we know are going to give you long-term value. That's property, index funds. And at this point, this can take many, many years. So for property investors, I always think between 5 and 10 years, you're going to join the wealthy. And assuming you're putting in, you know, over £1,000 a month into index funds, a similar sort of time frame for what I would consider a normal life. Now, to really generate what I would consider the wealthy level, you know, the point where passive income is greater than lifestyle. And please note that I didn't say greater than active income, because often people don't choose to give up what they're doing. If they love it enough, they'll continue to do that. But your passive income is greater than your lifestyle. Now, I was definitely here in 2019, and in 2020, when the coronavirus came and my income took a huge hit, and bear in mind, a lot of that was passive, HMOs that suddenly emptied, and I had a business, a taxi business, which I was no longer really active in apart from quarterly board meetings. You know, that would have been classed as passive income. All of that ground to a halt instantly. So I moved back to the investor. I cut my expenses again. I got rid of my car. I moved out my house. My house was £8,000 a month. So I've cut that expense out. I've cut the car out, which was $640. You know, all of that's come down, and it's put me in a position where my income, again, is far superior to my expenses, and it allows me to build it back up. So every month at the moment, I'm investing over £5,000 into index funds and a similar amount into property. Now, those figures might seem quite large, and it wasn't always that large. You know, when I first started, I was investing £1,000 a month. That was the sort of number that I was aiming to try and get into index funds every month. And once I'd done that for 2 or 3 years, I had enough for another deposit on my second property. And then I refinanced the first one, I got my third property. You know, the snowball does start. All starting from the grind, from the mindset shift, but eventually the wealthy have their passive income equal to or greater than their lifestyle. But what I would go one step further on, I think you have to have a diversified passive income. So I just had passive income that was greater than my lifestyle, significantly greater. The coronavirus came along, wiped out, I would say, about 70% of my income overnight. And my passive income was no longer greater than my lifestyle. If I was more diversified, that might not have been the case. So I'm going to say, actually, diversified passive income is greater than your lifestyle, because there's many instances of people building big businesses and losing everything. So that is my 5 levels of wealth. I think that anybody watching this, if you can just commit to going through these levels, understanding where you are on here today, what it takes to get the next level, and committing to a plan that's going to work for you, I think anybody can move all the way through here in about 5 to 10 years. So guys, let me know in the comments where you think you are today, what you need to do in order to get to the next level. I hope you found this video interesting. As I said, in the house just there, let me spin this round. Here we go. Ooh. Over here in the house, my wife is in there with our newborn baby, so I'm not going to be doing any of the outro in there or any of the filming in there. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I appreciate the lighting might not have been the good, but guys, thank you so much for watching and supporting, and I'll see you on the next video. Cheers, guys.